Hey, Michael with X-Force PC. Been doing some benchmarks this afternoon on graphics cards, and basically I wanted to make sure what I was telling people was accurate, and it was, but now I have some hard numbers to sort of back that up. So what I did is I did some what I call a benchmark. Essentially I put the plane over New York City at a specific altitude and attitude and paused it at the exact same spot every time, and I got a frames per second reading for each of the different graphics cards I used. I also used the fastest i7 available on the market at 4.7 gigahertz, so the very fastest gaming CPU I could get, and I did that to eliminate it as a possible bottleneck. So I've got the fastest processor I can get just for that reason. Now I picked two different settings. One's what I call medium settings. These are the settings that I put in to a system before I ship it out. I think it's a good mix of quality and performance, and that's what I called medium. And then I went for what I call high settings. I dragged the sliders almost all the way up. And so let's put the high settings up here right now so you can see what I did there, and you can see that most of the sliders are the most of the way up. And then of course I did the medium, so let's go ahead and put the medium settings up here now. And you can see they're more towards the middle or upper middle on most of the sliders. And I also did these runs at 4K and at 1080p. And of course a 4K display has 4 times the number of pixels as a 1080p. So it's like having 4 1080p monitors hooked up, or at least pretty close. And so I ran them both ways, did them both at high, and so let's put the numbers up here on the screen. So what these numbers represent to me is, number one, if you're running a 1080p display, which is kind of the standard size display, and you're running these medium settings that I reference, there's really no benefit in going above a 1060. And if you have if you have a 4K display and you're running at those medium settings I mentioned, you can still get by on a 1060 even at 4K. Now if you bump it up to those high settings, you know, the frame rates go in the toilet pretty quickly. And so really on those medium settings, if you go above a 1070 even at 4K, you're kind of wasting your money. But then when you go to 4K and you turn everything up high, it's really hard to get good frame rate at X-Plane in its current state. And we're at 11.05 right now. So I probably went too far, but I kind of wanted to go to the extreme just to see how low or how high the frame rate would be. In looking at all these, obviously we've got some work to do here at 4K with the high settings. And 11.10 is going to have some optimizations, and ultimately before VR comes out for X-Plane, there's going to be some additional optimizations, because you got to maintain 90 frames per second, so you have 45 frames per second in each eye, and you don't get vertigo, which you can get with low frame rates. So hopefully this sort of gives you an idea of what the graphics card you might need for your particular application and what type of frame rate you should expect, so you don't overbuy or underbuy on a graphics card.